Since the EU imposed high tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles, many European countries have begun to take the initiative to show goodwill and even invite Chinese companies to build factories in their local areas. The reason is simple. As long as the factory is moved to Europe, Chinese companies can avoid high tariffs and sell products directly locally. This seems to be a compromise solution, right? But things are not that simple. Just a few days ago, EU officials suddenly put forward a new requirement. They plan to require Chinese companies that set up factories in Europe to transfer technology and intellectual property rights to local companies before they are eligible to apply for subsidies. This move makes people wonder whether the EU's initial anti-subsidy investigation on Chinese electric vehicles is paving the way for the current technology transfer. And this time, the response of Chinese companies is also decisive-directly announced the suspension of all related investments. This makes people wonder, will Chinese companies give up the European market because of this? Next, where will the strategic focus of China's electric vehicles turn to? If you like our video content, please click to subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you can receive all our latest video content. Now let's get into today's topic. With the rapid development of the new energy vehicle industry, China has transformed from a growth engine of the global automotive manufacturing industry to a core force driving the transformation of the global automotive industry. Today, China produces nearly 1/3 of the world's cars, nearly 2/3 of electric vehicles, and up to 70% of electric vehicle batteries. According to the latest data, China's annual production of new energy vehicles has exceeded 10 million. Making it the first country in the world to achieve this milestone. At the same time, China's new energy vehicle ownership accounts for about 58% of the global total. Data from September this year showed that a total of 1.7 million electric vehicles were sold in the global electric vehicle market, of which China's electric vehicle sales reached 1.1 million, accounting for 66% of the global market. From the beginning of the year to September, a total of about 11.5 million electric vehicles were sold worldwide, and the Chinese market contributed 7.2 million of them, a year-on-year increase of 35%, once becoming the leader in the automobile market. Of course, why Chinese electric vehicles can occupy such a large global market share is not only due to the leading technology, but also to the extremely competitive price advantage. Even after being exported to other countries, Chinese electric vehicles are still much cheaper than local products of the same level. However, it is this strong market share that has also attracted great attention. Many Western government officials believe that China's electric vehicles pose a survival threat to local auto companies with their price advantage. Subsequently, under the promotion of the United States, the European Union followed up and launched an anti-subsidy investigation against Chinese auto companies. Finally, in October this year, the European Union issued a punitive tariff of up to 38.5%. It is worth noting that China did not passively accept this situation, but launched countermeasures against Europe, and a series of actions also entered a game state in China-EU trade. It should be noted that under China's countermeasures, Europe seems to be a little caught off guard. There are also voices opposing tariff policies in many European countries, believing that these measures have a huge impact on the local economy. Faced with this situation, some member states in the European Union chose to take the initiative to visit China in an attempt to ease the tension. In order to solve the EU's tariffs, some European countries even directly invited Chinese electric vehicle companies to set up factories locally. At the time, it seemed that this was indeed a good solution. CATL, a well-known Chinese automobile company, also announced that it would build super factories in Hungary and Germany with a total investment of billions of euros. In addition, other Chinese companies have also announced that they will invest hundreds of millions of euros in Spain, France, Italy, and other countries to build electric vehicle manufacturing plants. However, just when I thought that China and the EU had come to an end on the issue of electric vehicles, suddenly some Western media claimed that the EU wanted to snatch electric vehicle technology. So, what is going on? As far as I know, the so-called punitive tariffs may be just a cover. The real purpose is to use the technology of Chinese companies to fill the gap in Europe's electric vehicle battery field. A few days ago, 2 EU officials broke the news that the EU is planning to require Chinese companies that come to Europe to invest and build factories to transfer technology property rights to local companies as a condition for obtaining EU subsidies. This requirement is listed as part of a stricter clean technology trade system, and battery companies are the first to bear the brunt. What is more worrying is that this new regulation may be extended to other green industries in the EU in the future. According to these officials, the EU's technology transfer standards are expected to be officially implemented in December this year, specifically in a battery development subsidy project totaling €1 billion. At that time, if Chinese companies want to set up factories in Europe and obtain subsidies, they must share their technical knowledge. From this information, this does explain the logic of the EU's recent series of actions. From imposing high tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles, to frequently inviting Chinese companies to build factories locally, to today's forced technology transfer, these measures seem to be linked together. In addition, EU officials also said that if Chinese companies choose to reject technology transfer requirements, the EU will not only not make any concessions in the negotiations on the 35.3% tariff, but may also take a series of stricter measures. For example, raising the investment threshold for Chinese companies in Europe, refusing them to participate in general government procurement projects, and even investigating and fining Chinese companies operating in Europe. However, in the face of these mandatory actions of the EU, China did not choose to compromise. China has issued new investment and construction proposals to domestic companies in Europe, while publicly stating that there is a high degree of uncertainty in the policies of the European government. Affected by this, some Chinese domestic automakers have announced the suspension of any major investment plans in European countries that support the imposition of tariffs. At the same time, the Ministry of Commerce of China is also studying a series of possible countermeasures, including banning certain investment projects and restricting the export of electric vehicle-related technologies. In fact, even though the Chinese government has not officially announced the relevant ban, some Chinese companies have begun to take the initiative to stop their investment plans in Europe. Among them, Chinese battery giant Honeycomb Energy originally planned to build 2 battery module and assembly plants in Germany with a total investment of €2 billion, which were originally scheduled to be completed by the end of this year. However, the latest news shows that Honeycomb Energy has decided to suspend the construction of the 2 factories and stop the operations of the 2 companies in Europe. As for whether these projects will be restarted, there is no clear timetable. Not only that, China's Dongfeng Motor also announced that it would suspend all investment plans in Italy. It is not difficult for us to imagine that this may just be the beginning. If the situation continues to deteriorate, more companies may announce the cancellation of investments in Spain, France, and other places in the future. So the question is China ready to give up the European market? In my opinion, judging from the current situation, China is indeed gradually preparing to give up the European market. In fact, when Western countries threatened to impose sanctions on Chinese electric vehicles last year, Chinese auto companies began to actively lay out new markets outside the West. It should be noted that Chinese cars are not only popular in Europe, but also occupy an important market share in Southeast Asia, the Middle East, and other places. Taking Southeast Asia as an example, since Thai local companies currently have no ability or willingness to develop their own new energy vehicle brands, Chinese electric vehicles account for 80% of Thailand's new energy vehicle market. The situation in the Middle East is similar. In the first half of 2024, China's passenger car exports to the Middle East reached 420,000 units, a year-on-year increase of 46.2%, of which new energy vehicles accounted for as much as 19.6%. In May this year, BYD officially opened its first store in Riyadh, the capital of Saudi Arabia. China FAW Group plans to invest $20 million in Egypt to build necessary industrial infrastructure. China Chang'an Automobile is planning to establish a Middle East subsidiary and plans to exceed 1.2 million vehicles in the Middle East by 2030. Of course, Chinese companies have also accelerated their expansion in Southeast Asia. For example, BYD announced in early 2024 that it would invest $1.3 billion to build an electric vehicle factory in Indonesia. At the same time, BYD also acquired a 20% stake in an official distributor in Thailand and plans to invest $1 billion to open its first factory in the Southeast Asian market. According to the plan, BYD will also build production bases for electric vehicles and buses in countries such as Cambodia and Vietnam. And other Chinese automakers are not lagging behind. Great Wall Motors is accelerating its layout in Southeast Asia, planning to build new factories in Malaysia, Indonesia, and Vietnam, which are expected to start production this year or next year. And Chang'an Automobile has also announced that it will set up a production base in Thailand, which is expected to be officially put into production in 2025. Judging from these actions, Chinese electric vehicle companies are clearly looking for new markets and production bases for the future. Even if the European market becomes difficult to enter, Southeast Asia is very likely to become the main growth point for Chinese electric vehicles in the next stage. But in my opinion, the lag of European automakers in green transformation cannot be simply attributed to the so-called unfair competitive advantages of Chinese companies. In fact, the claim that China squeezes the living space of European automakers through subsidies is simply untenable. The bigger problem for European car companies to lag behind in the development of electrification lies in themselves. First of all, the development of infrastructure in Europe is relatively backward. For example, the coverage of supporting facilities such as charging piles is far from meeting market demand. In addition, the shortcomings of battery technology are also one of the key obstacles to the development of electric vehicles in Europe. Many European brands are either slow to act in transformation or the electric vehicles they produce cannot compete with Chinese brands in terms of cost performance. Therefore, in the case that new energy vehicles are generally regarded as the future direction of the industry, if European car companies cannot face up to their strategic mistakes and adjust their development ideas, they are likely to lose their foothold in the global electric vehicle wave. To not miss out on our future projects and news updates, please make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. We will continue to provide you with more exciting and interesting content.